The Solent off south coast of England and the start of the 6th Whitbread round the world yacht race for the Heineken Trophy. 117 crew on the 14 yachts from all over the world gathered in Southampton's Ocean Village Marina, scenes of celebrations in the firework and laser light show last night party. Next morning, it's time for the last-minute farewells and emotional partings. Grant Dalton, skipper of New Zealand Endeavour, gets a farewell hug from his wife. Last to bed, the crew of Uruguay Natral are first to cast off and head for the start line. Closely behind, Interim Justitia, the European entry, showing the national flags from not only on deck, but up in the mast as well. Sweden, and at the very top, it's Rick Tomlinson, the onboard photographer with the British Union Jack. For the first time in the race's history, the boats head eastwards from the start for safety reasons. Once around the Isle of Wight, they'll be turning out down the Channel and towards the Atlantic. The first leg takes the yachts to Punta del Este in Uruguay, nearly 6,000 miles across the doldrums and equator, about a month's sailing. From South America, it's Fremantle in Australia, into the Southern Ocean, 7,500 miles of freezing rain, icebergs and huge seas. From Australia, a short 3,000-mile leg to the city of sails, Auckland in New Zealand. Auckland, another long leg, this time around the southern tip of South America, the famed Cape Horn, and up to Punta del Este. Leg 5, 5,500 miles through the warm waters of the West Indies to Fort Lauderdale in Florida. The final leg in May 1994, a dash across the Atlantic and back to the finish line off Southampton in early June, a total of some 32,000 miles. So, on the commentary box here, Derek Clark, international yachtsman, but on the ship, HMS Southampton, it's another famous man, His Royal Highness the Duke of York, who will start the cannon to start the 6th Whitbread round the world yacht race. There goes the gun, Derek, and this very important time for all these boats, many spectator craft, but wending your way through that is very difficult, isn't it?
Well, they've got some excellent control boats out there. They've got a lane all the way down the Solent, but the hard job for the skippers now is pick which end of that line to start. Obviously, these very large boats do blanket the wind, and as you can see, they're well spread over across the line.
Yes, now the boats with two masts, these are the ketches. They seem to have taken the nearer side of the course, nearest to HMS Southampton, and the ketches very new, the Maxis.
Yeah, they're the largest boats available under IRR to race in this race. They're especially optimised for going around the world, and the best start there has been made by the French boat La Poste.
Yes, La Poste there, and taking the wind from Interim Justitia, the one with fair pay on the sail. Here is Matthew Humphreys, the skipper of the only British boat, and the youngest skipper in the course as well, 23 years old.
Yeah, he's made a good start there, but Yamaha, with that slightly smaller spinnaker, he's working up underneath the three catches, the three Bruce Farr design catches, and really showing how fast the Whitbread 60s can go on a close reach.
Yes, the very clear, translucent sail of La Poste there, but out right in the middle of the fleet is Tokyo, Japanese, Chris Dixon.
Chris showing why he's one of the world's top inshore racers. He's got a break on this fleet already. A world-class fleet, and he's already got 100 metres on them all.
We say Japanese, of course, Chris Dixon very much a Kiwi. It's being raced under the joint flag of Japan and New Zealand. The other New Zealand boat is Grant Dalton in the middle of this pack at the moment and fighting for position.
All being left up by Yamaha there, trying to protect her breeze.
Laurie Smith sailing for Spain this time, last time sailing for Britain. He's sailing on Fortuna with an extra mast made of fiberglass, Derek.
Yeah, especially made by Carbo Spars here in Great Britain, Hamble.
And here we see Winston from America. First time we're seeing an American boat just in front of Merritt Cup, Pierre Philman's new ketch.
Winston's one of the Whitbread 60s, got the America's Cup famous skipper Dennis Connors on board.
Right, whoops. Bowman on the, this is La Poste here, just going for a peel. This is where they change the spinnaker. It looks as though they're overtaking the boat that we're on at the moment. And you also see the clipper bow of these new ketches.
Great picture of Tokyo there, just showing how the clean lines. It's a Bruce Farr design. It's never actually raced against another boat. He's had two boats, one by Bruce Farr and one by John Swarbrick, and he's picked this one as the fastest boat.
Clear air obviously paying off here and staying well away from the wash of the spectator boats, and there are many here as well. Some 6,000 gathered to watch the start of this sixth Whitbread round the world yacht race.
You can see they're being controlled by the special patrol boats. The marshals are doing an excellent job, but they're coming very close to a mark just off the gill kicker point, and this is where all the action's starting to happen.
Now the clipper bow on this boat. This is New Zealand Endeavour, but this is Yamaha, Ross Field, another Kiwi Japan entry.
One of the few two-boat programs. He had one boat he had for a year, sold it to the US ladies team, and has really done a lot of sea miles.
Translucent, the sails on these boats nowadays, very clean and new, high-tech sails.
Yes, they're very lightweight, but they're extremely strong for their weight. There's been a huge amount of development both in the Whitbread 60s and in the maxi boats. And remember, they have to last, they have to go right around the world.
On board with Dennis Connor on the helm of Winston. And this is the old Yamaha boat, and now owned by Nancy Frank from the Florida. And this is the all-female entry. She came here 4 years ago, but didn't cross the line, couldn't afford to, but this time she's crossed it and done very well.
One of the interesting aspects of the Whitbread 60s that have been are these asymmetric spinnakers. They're lopsided almost, but they're much more efficient than the normal symmetrical spinnakers.
Paying off for Chris Dixon on Tokyo, first round, the first turning mark. And the second Whitbread 60 is Dennis Connor's Winston, picking his way through the myriads of spectator craft. Here's Brooksfield. This is the non-Bruce Farr design boat, and from Italy, very fine green hull she is too, skippered by Guido Masto.
Yes, the designers of Brooksfield are more famous for the what's called the BOC race, where it's a single-handed round the world. So they've won that race a couple of times with their designs.
Just in front of them, though, it's Matthew Humphreys with their new sponsorship on the mainsail, secured only yesterday, and that money enabling them to start.
He's doing an excellent job there. Matthew's one of the youngest skippers in the race, as you see, and this picture taken from Dolphin to Brooksfield just shows you how close the racing's going to be.
Also shows how fast these boats are going to be. It's almost just picking up there, even on the wash of the spectator boats.
Yeah, we call that surfing, and that's just a foretaste of what they're going to see in the big winds and the big waves down in the Southern Ocean.
The other big advantage these Whitbread 60s have, Derek, is the water ballast they carry.
Yes, that's instead of having the poor old crew hang over the side all night and all day, they were able to pump up to 2.5 tons of water ballast right onto the side of the boat, so that means you can sail with less people, and the boats have a much higher power to weight ratio. That gives them a lot of speed.
12 helicopters covering the start of this sixth Whitbread round the world yacht race for the Heineken Trophy, and a big spectator fleet as well. Here we see at the moment it's Tokyo and Winston as well on the left hand side of the fleet there. Then the three ketches following the two Whitbread 60s, then another Whitbread 60, the green spinnaker of Brooksfield, and then the ketch, that's Fortuna there in the middle, and 17 minutes into this first leg, but there's 6,000 miles to go, a long way yet. There's Fair Pay Please, Interim Justitia, the European entry in the middle of the fleet. And as we head towards the back of the fleet, still plenty of boats to come. Also the Ukrainian entries, haven't seen them yet. Hetman Sahidashny, all the way from Ukraine.
Yes, it's interesting to see all these three Bruce Farr catches, all very, very similar speed. Laurie Smith tried to start to leeward of the line, but really his boat isn't that good close reaching. What he's looking for is a race where predominantly the winds will be from behind him. That's really where he's optimised that boat. He's had to do that with an old boat.
Here's New Zealand Endeavour, and this is Grant Dalton. This is the new ketch. In fact, the only different one, because Merit Cup and La Poste are sister ships, identical. This is Ross Field, the skipper of Yamaha.
He's looking a bit worried here. He had an excellent start. I think he had a slightly smaller spinnaker than some of the other Whitbread 60s. He got rolled by all of the three catches, and when that happens, he goes slowly for a long time, and it set him back in the fleet.
Very difficult to race, though, surely, in these conditions with all these spectator boats watching.
Yes, the lead boat has a big advantage. He's not got many of the little power boats around him. All these boats are now getting pulled back, as it were, by the wash of being made by this huge spectator fleet.
Yes, a lot of people have got their eyes on Dennis Conner, the world's most famed sailor. Ross Field probably doesn't agree with that, though.
Well, Ross has got more experience offshore than Dennis has, but you can see here he's being rolled by his compatriots. It's not a nice feeling. He probably thinks he should have a bigger spinnaker up. In this power condition, he should be pretty much equal with that Maxi.
Maxi going very well, and the crew there just trimming that Jenica, and that spinnaker pole from the Jenica is right on the forestay, Derek. So they can't really carry it much higher than that, can they?
Well, you can see the boom's not quite on centre line. That's probably an apparent wind, what they call it, apparent wind angle to the centre line of the boat of about sort of 100 degrees. They can get up to about 70 degrees with that chute. But really, they looked as though it was a little bit too flat, and with the Maxes as well, that's given those two leading W6s a bit of a gap.
Well, New Zealand Endeavour going very well at the moment. This boat carried favourite at the moment. Grant Dalton, of course, followed in the heels of Peter Blake in Steinlager, his fellow countryman from New Zealand. Peter Blake winning last time round. Peter has stood down, so it's down to Grant to take the honours for him. But Winston on the left side of the screen there, now in fairly clear wind.
He's taking a bit of a higher course, so trying to get it clear of the spectator wash a little bit perhaps, but that's not necessarily going to pay, because what goes up has to come down in sailing terms. And really, Chris Dixon here in Tokyo, he's really got a nice advantage. He's got clearer air, he's got slightly flatter seas, although now we can see that the spectator fleet's beginning to even encroach on this leader.
Nice paint job as well on Chris Dixon's boat. Very noticeable, but that big spectator fleet and the wash created. Look at the powerboat behind there, rolling in the wash.
Well, you can see Chris saying, come on, get past me, give me a ride, get on. I mean, it's a nice adrenaline buzz to lead any race like this. It'll set them up for the next few hours, and then the work will really begin as dusk falls and you start getting overhauled by people. That's when the race really begins for these guys.
But 30 days they've got ahead of them, down into the doldrums, the calm there, and then on down to the South Atlantic and Punta del Este. On board Yamaha, he's being overhauled by all these ketches now.
Yes, I said he seems to be having a much more of a problem. He's got too involved with some of the other boats, the Maxes.
This is the only Japanese gentleman aboard Yamaha, and he's the 45-year-old Olympic sailor called Kazuran Kamatsu.
And he's now even being rolled by Fortuna. It almost doesn't look as though he's got a Jenica up at all at this time.
Yes, Fortuna not doing it so well at the moment. This boat much heavier than the brand new lightweight ketches that are taking part. But Laurie Smith, well, time will tell. The big downwind legs of the Southern Ocean is what Laurie's looking forward to. But Chris Dixon, obviously reveling in these conditions, and is way ahead of the fleet at the moment. And this new boat that hasn't raced against any of the others here, certainly pulling out a lead at the moment.
He's done an excellent job. As I said, he's been assisted a little bit by the position of the spectator fleet. And here we have at the back of the fleet, Uruguay Natural having a few problems with her spinnaker.
Yeah, it's not too good on Uruguay Natural. Maybe that few beers they had last night having a bit of an effect.
Yeah, I don't know how much racing that group has done, but to drop into this world-class fleet, that's really hard work.
That boat 4 years ago lost its keel when it was called Martella of Finland. What are they flying on top of? That was, I think, New Zealand Endeavour flying what looked like a bit of a long burgee there.
Well, that's actually a sock which contains that Jenica staysail, which is set from the mizzenmast forward. That enables the sail to be hoisted as a long tube or a sausage, and then that's stripped away when the sail gets right to the top of this halyard.
Should they be carrying it on that boat still?
Well, it should come down, not go up. In fact, it should be being returned with there's a very little line attached to it, and it should have come down, but it's not really slowing them down on that point of sailing.
Look, Joko still in front, but Winston there on the right-hand side, the red spinnaker there, creeping up a bit. Dennis Conner, of course, one of the most experienced sailors on the course. He sails for 365 days a year.
As the boats have turned round that turning mark and gone down towards the forts, which is one of their marks of the course, they've actually borne away from the wind a little bit, and we're just seeing the sort of change, the relative change of speeds between the Maxes and the 60s, which is what we thought would happen in this weight of breeze. We think that the Maxes should be faster downwind, up to about 14 knots of breeze.
Still a long way to go to find out who's going to be first at Uruguay, but the 60s proving themselves at the moment as the fleet head eastwards out of the Solent, heading towards the fort. Now let's take a look in the middle of the fleet. This is the original Yamaha, now chartered by Nancy Frank from Key West and her all-female crew. They've got quite an old-looking Jennifer up there.
Yes, I believe this is the one they blew out up to sort of 7 or 8 times. So now, and it's a little bit small. They've been taking it easy at the start, making sure they don't have any problems with the spectator fleet. It is a long way to go, but now they're a little bit clearer. They should be putting up a larger sail, and as we can see, it's being moved. The halyard's being pulled up by the girls on the mast, and the sock is in place. They'll strip that sock off once they've got the halyard all the way up, and then take the other sail down. That's called carrying out a spinnaker peel.
Yes, Michaela von Kuskel there, the Baroness from Finland, on the halyards of US Women's Challenge, and that Jennifer going up and looking as though they're going to be changing it fairly soon. All the boats now running fairly squarely downwind, Derek.
Yes, we call that VMG sailing. They don't actually sail right in front of the bridge. They make an angle which is slightly faster to make sure the airflow still moves across the sail rather than they act as parachutes and just get dragged downwind.
There goes the old one then. It's being pulled down, not particularly fast, and the new one not being set particularly quickly. It does actually say on there, I think, something to do with their sponsors, the Florida Keys. But that old one needs to come in fairly quickly. It's dragging through the sea now. Not very good from the girls at the moment. They have to improve their crew work there, and there's ropes trailing as well. Not very good for our cameras here at the moment.
Well, certainly they've got a few sea miles to get a lot of practice in. That's a brand new spinnaker. I helped measure that about 5 days ago, I think, looking at it. So it's absolutely brand new. Their sponsors have been extremely helpful to them. A lot of these boats just wouldn't be able to compete in the races without major sponsorship assistance.
Great achievement for the girls and Nancy Frank of US Women's Challenge. Best of luck to them on their way round. But Chris Dixon still leading the fleet, and many spectator boats still following the rest of these 14 round-the-world racers. Nice sight, though, isn't it, over Chris Dixon's shoulder to see the rest of the fleet behind him.
Fantastic sight, and it just shows you the value of onboard cameras in a sailing environment. We're seeing pictures that normally really only the crew ever see, and it really makes you feel that you're there. And one of the great things that we're going to see in this race, of course, is the BT coverage.
Yes, satellite systems will be enabling us to see pictures from the boats as they race around the world, even though they may be thousands of miles from land. Well, the catches there, 2 nice shots of this is Grant Dalton's New Zealand endeavour, showing a different Jennifer now, done a quick peel there, and many sponsors on that one as well. But right on his stern is the French yacht, La Poste, and really coming up to take his wind there.
Yeah, I think he looks as though he's having a lot of trouble from both La Poste and Winston to windward of him.
But Ross Field is deciding to consult someone else because he's relinquished the wheel and he's on the phone, possibly talking to New Zealand or even Japan. But Yamaha there, the sponsors of that boat, the second Whitbread 60 that he's got for this Whitbread round the world race. Fine shot of Winston's red spinnaker there, and looks like they're preparing for a jibe, Derek.
Yes, they're setting up for a jibe. They're now sort of aiming towards Bembridge Ledge, which is one of the second, not so much marks of the course, but the sort of barriers that they have to get round before they get to the south of the Isle of Wight and off into open sea.
Yamaha has gone through her jibe.
Yeah, diving in Jennifer is a little bit different from driving the spinnaker. The sail is sort of swept around the front. Here we have Fortuna doing hers. It's not quite as elegant as a normal spinnaker jibe. You can see the sail has to collapse before it's filled again on the new jibe.
And here we are, Hetman Sahidashny, the Ukrainian entry by Eugene Platon, the skipper, in this Bruce Farr fiberglass design boat built in the Ukraine in an aeronautical factory, and it's nice to see them here. They arrived fairly late, but they're in the race.
Yes, it's as you say, it's a very difficult thing for these guys to do. This is a high-tech game in terms of boat building and getting the crew together, and really they're fairly inexperienced, but they're in the race, and that's something by itself.
La Poste there on the left, and Merit Cup, identical catches, and Merit Cup, the 5th Whitbread race for Pierre Fellman, and he's out for a win.
Here we can see that Chris Dix is set up for the first jibe of the race. He'll have had a lot of experience of doing this on the Japanese entry in the last America's Cup. They're difficult sails to jibe, but that's a pretty good jibe by anybody's standard, right in front of New Zealand Endeavour.
Yes, Grant Dalton's 2 spinnakers helping him along, as is La Post's 2 spinnakers as well. And the ketch is now turning on a bit of speed, the fleet coming out. Now, Winston's coming in from the right there.
Winston has right of way there, and actually had to luff up a little. If that was an inshore race, he'd have raised a protest flag, but with nearly 6,000 miles to go, I don't think Dennis will worry too much.
Yes, Dennis Conner had right of way there over the Frenchman La Poste. La Poste also looking as though they're making the jibe. So the boat's now heading out of the forts and heading towards the eastern end of the Solent. Here we are on board Intrum Justitia, and these pictures coming by BT satellite. These pictures are going all the way up into space, coming back down again, and here they are live on your screen. Marvellous technology this, and it is really extraordinary. Sound as well from Roger Nilsson, the skipper.
We were actually pretty good on the line, but we had a little problem hoisting the jam anchor. And we came out to the sleeve, and we got a little bit behind, so we were not so...
Certainly a lot to look forward to there, but here we have Merit coming up for her jibe. This is one of the most difficult manoeuvres to perform. They've got to jibe both those floppy looking sails now, and they're making an excellent job of it. Really impressive crew work on Merit.
Yes, good crew work, plenty of practice for Pierre Fellman's crew. Uruguay Natural, however, they need a little more practice perhaps from what we've seen, but that spinnaker not setting terribly well on the only sloop maxi in the race. But they got 6,000 miles and 30 days or so at sea before they arrive at their home port of Punta del Este in Uruguay. They're very lucky. They're going to be visiting it twice. I'm sure they'll have plenty of celebrations. But the rest of the fleet, 14 of the Whitbread Round the World yacht races, have made the start here at the Solent in England. But I hope you've enjoyed our coverage. We'll leave you with the sight of that great fleet for the start of the 6th Whitbread Round the World yacht race for the Heineken Trophy.